What is going on, everyone? H-Town, stand up. The Houston Texans defeated the Indianapolis Colts 23-19, and it gives me so much pleasure and honor to say this. The Houston Texans are headed to the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, in year one of their rebuild. Shout out to owners Kyle and Hannah McNair. Shout out to general manager Nick Caserio, and shout out to D'Amico Ryans, our head coach. Who would have thought? I remember so many of these so-called analysts saying we were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. We had one of the worst rosters in the NFL. We were once again going to be picking in the top of the draft, but no one told the Houston Texans that. And I never want to hear same old Houston Texans again, because what this team showed you today is they are different. D'Amico Ryans has said this all year, but the fans wanted to see it on the field. Can this young Houston Texans team put the history in the past? And they did that today. Damn, I am so proud to be a Houston Texan. Once again, shout out to owners Kyle and Hannah McNair. Shout out to general manager Nick Caserio. And shout out to my head coach, D'Amico Ryans. Welcome, everyone, to the 713 Houston Sportcast. I am your host, Ruben Calvillo. Thank you, everyone who joined the live stream. It was our biggest of the year, and guess what? We get to do it again next week. If you are new here to the channel, welcome. Trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. The good thing is the season hasn't ended yet for the Houston Texans, man. Welcome. Hope you guys enjoy. Now let's talk about this crazy game. And starting with the Houston Texan offense, our quarterback, Coleridge Bernard V, 20 of 26, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 134.1. CJ Stroud rose to the occasion. His first primetime game, he stepped up. He showed that the lights weren't too bright, and CJ Stroud announced himself to the world. I mean, the first play of the game, a 75-yard bomb to Nico Collins, and we'll talk about Nico Collins in a little bit. But CJ Stroud, what he showed you, has shown you in year one, and the season's not over, ladies and gentlemen, because we know once you get to the postseason, anything can happen. But CJ has showed you he is legit a franchise guy. And CJ Stroud has an opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to be one of the great players of this game. Yes, it is crazy we are talking about great with CJ Stroud. But like I've said all year, this isn't a rookie. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he showed that today. Shout out to CJ Stroud. You saw how emotional he was after the game. He wanted to dominate the Colts after being snubbed from starting in the Pro Bowl. Fuck the Pro Bowl. Let's go to the Super Bowl, because you could talk about Super Bowl when you're in the postseason, baby. The rushing attack. Not a good day, but they got the job done. Devin Singletary, 24 rushes, 63 yards, 1 touchdown. No attempts from Dameon Pierce. CJ Stroud, 3 rushes for 20 yards, used his legs, and then Cameron Johnson, 1 rush for minus 23 yards. But shout out to D'Amico Ryans for coming up with that play. We'll get to that in a second. Your receiving attack, this is where we can get excited. Nico Collins, 9 catches, 195 yards, 1 touchdown. His longest was 75 yards, the big play to open up the Houston Texan offense. I mean, Nico Collins had a superstar type of day. He showed you he can be a legit number 1 wide receiver. There was no Tank Dell, no Noah Brown, no Robert Woods, no problem. Tank Dell was the guy today, besides CJ Stroud, for this Houston Texan offense. I mean, he has 1,200 yards. I think he's 5 yards short of 1,300. What a year for Nico Collins. He is establishing himself as potentially a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. Absolutely crazy. He showcased his yards after the catch. 9 targets, 9 receptions, 195, 21.7 yards a catch. It was absolutely phenomenal by Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz, 5 receptions 42 yards, 1 reception shy of getting his $250,000 bonus. CJ Stroud missed him on that, on that pass. It would have been a touchdown. There was nothing but green grass in front of Dalton Schultz. But man, CJ is going to want that pass back. But Dalton Schultz had a very solid day. A guy that moved the chains for CJ Stroud. Big play. And he went to Dalton Schultz. Shout out to Dalton Schultz. He's been fantastic all year and has definitely been one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Kaimi Fairbairn, you bastard. I've been calling you the best kicker in the NFL, and you scared me. You missed the extra point. If Indy would have scored a touchdown, man, at the end of the game, it would have came down to the kicker. Absolutely crazy. Nonetheless, the Houston Texans offense, they did their thing. Bobby Slowick, offensive coordinator, I think he had an up and down day. We were too predictable at times. We ran a lot on first down when the run wasn't really going. But whenever a big play needed to happen, Bobby Slowick, he put the ball in CJ Stroud's hands. That's all we can ask as fans, is to put the ball in your best player's hands, and that's exactly what he did in key moments of the game. Shout out to this Houston Texans offense for getting the job done today. Now, switching to the Houston Texans defense, I mean, bend don't break, right? Gardner Minshew, horrible like I predicted. 13 of 24, 141 yards, no touchdowns, a quarterback rating of 71.7. A lot of Colts fans were saying that CJ Stroud was not ready for the big lights, and my response was, so what do you think Gardner Minshew is going to do? And Gardner Minshew, he played absolutely horrible. There is no excuse today, and I said this all week. Gardner Minshew was not a quarterback that could win you a football game, but he can lose you one, and that is exactly what he did today, overselling his pass catchers. I mean, he had Mo Alley Cox for a touchdown when he beat Steven Nelson on that double move, but just missed them by 4 yards. Gardner Minshew, he's not going to be here next year. The quarterback would be AR-15 Anthony Richardson, and I cannot wait for that rematch next year. But this Houston Texans defense, man, only sacked Gardner Minshew one time. That was from Christian Harris, and Christian Harris is becoming, man, just an absolute unit out there. This is what you expected when head coach DeMeco Ryans is leading your defense. Like I said, it was a very tough day on the ground against Jonathan Taylor. But when you needed to step up, this D-line made plays. Jonathan Taylor did not have an impact the final, I'll say, 6 to 7 minutes of the game. This defense really held him down and locked up. And the game was on their shoulders. And they rose to the occasion. They put pressure on Gardner Minshew. They made it hard for him. And yes, the ball was dropped by the running back, but he just wasn't paying attention. He wasn't ready. Why was Jonathan Taylor not in the football game? You have to put that on the coaching. Derek Stingley, this secondary, lights out. No pass catcher, had over 50 yards for Indianapolis. And Michael Pittman Jr., where was he? Because when he was matched up against Derek Stingley, his name was not called. He was targeted 6 times, 5 receptions for 44 yards, only 8 yards a catch. That is not something you wanted to see from arguably one of the best young wide receivers in the NFL. But this defense, like I mentioned, man, bend don't break. The linebackers were pretty good except for Blake Campbell on that missed big Jonathan Taylor run. Khalil Davis had a big play in today's game. Desmond King was off and on. Derek Barnett, shout out to him. He had a tackle for loss today. Houston Carson had a big pass breakup. Malik Collins got his hand in the air to break one up as well. You didn't really hear Steven Nelson's name called a lot, but when you don't hear your corner's name, that's usually a good sign. Nonetheless, it wasn't pretty by this Houston Texans defense. Will Anderson Jr. was on a snap count still. There was no Jonathan Grenard. Can this Houston Texans team get healthy, ladies and gentlemen? I feel like we haven't seen that all season. And when we do get healthy, honestly, who is going to stop us? With that being said, guys, the Houston Texans are headed to the playoffs. Let me know what you guys are thinking. And for more Houston Texans content, y'all feel free to follow me for more. Go Houston. Have a very blessed day.